not going to be 16 hours because you're going to 4 hours, say, then sleep. Then really, let's say you have 4 hours or so that you have to get through. What can I have in the morning? I'm used to coffee or whatever it is. Coffee is fine. Black coffee. Black coffee is fine. Green tea is fine. In fact, they're both really, really good. Green tea is fantastic, especially in terms of helping to burn body fat, right? It has a lot of really good components in it from that. When it comes to black coffee, what I've evolved into that I'm a really big fan of, especially for people that, what you notice in the black coffee is, well, I can't have my cream in that? That's what I like, I have difficulty with that. I don't like the way that black coffee tastes, it's very acidic. Well, that's true. If you've had cold brewed coffee, right, which is now a really emerging commercial trend, cold brewed coffee, what they do is they don't, as the name would imply, when you heat coffee beans and you roast coffee beans and then you cook them that way, what it does is it pulls the acid. They do that because it's very fast. Cold brew takes about 12 to 14 hours for them to extract it through this cold methodology. But what it does is, under the heat, it makes it very acidic, and it also pulls out the good components that are in coffee beans. They're called catecholamines, and they help burn body fat, but heat destroys those. So cold brew coffee is actually better for you. And I don't personally, I just don't care for cold coffee. So what I do, and it's concentrated, like if you buy the concentrate, you buy it in like the glass bottles or whatever, they have it everywhere. You have to look labels because there's some that have sugars in it. So you gotta look for, there's a brand I love, it's called Chameleon, but some of them have sugar content in them and a couple of them do not, right? So you have to make sure that it's the right one. But it's concentrated, so my protocol is I pour like I take a coffee cup, I pour half of it with that, and then I boil water, and I just pour a half a cup of hot water on top of it, and that's my hot coffee. And you can use, if you want, you can use some stevia in that, as long as you get the right stevia that doesn't have the, sugars and glycemic response things in there, the net carbs.
There's sugar alcohols in some, right?
Correct.
And sugar alcohols will break the fast.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. So there are some like artificial sweeteners, like say Splenda, sucralose. I was a big fan and used that for a long time because it doesn't trigger an insulin response. I pulled it out of my diet a couple years ago because studies that I believe, right, there's always studies that will tell you, oh, coconut oil is terrible for you. That's untrue, 100% untrue. Those are always funded by somebody else, and in these like sugar alcohols or Splenda or those kinds of things, when you find those negative published studies on that, they're invariably traced back to the sugar company, sugar growers that fund that because they have a vested interest. But here is the problem with those artificial sweeteners is that they kill good gut bacteria. It's not worth it, right? That gut bacteria is so important to the way we think. So I don't like that part from that standpoint. But technically, you could use Splenda, the yellow one, if you had to. But stevia is great from that standpoint. So those, and then the other one, which I'm actually drinking right now, is the apple cider vinegar, right? So water, and this is really, really good, and especially if you have the acid reflux, it's huge for this, right? Another counterintuitive approach, right? Apple cider vinegar is high acidity. So wait, I have acid reflux, so you want me to take in an acidic, component to make that go away? And the reason why is because when your body recognizes the acid in that, it stops producing it. So apple cider vinegar is fantastic from that. It helps to detoxify as well. 2-3 tablespoons mixed with water. I love to add, and this is in here, but I love to add, this fits, you can do this during your fasting window, sip on this. I like to add the Himalayan sea salt. It helps with muscle contraction. And I like something, cream of tartar, if you've ever heard of that. Cream of tartar is a byproduct of winemaking. When they're making wines from the grapes, it releases this cream of tartar. And cream of tartar is really, really high in potassium. It's amazing. potassium source. So I'll just kind of pour those in with it, and just sip on that. If you hate apple cider vinegar and have difficulty with it, which initially some people find it very, very tough, that face, you'll make that face. I can't tell you, I cannot tell you how many people have, in a matter of a week or two, said to me, hey, is it weird when you start to like it? Right? That made that face. So I'm looking forward to that message from you. If not, I do have a trick for you. If you choose, you don't have to do apple cider vinegar, but I highly advise it. I would probably not do the salt, and I would probably not do the cream of tartar. Do the apple cider vinegar with water and put in cinnamon. It tastes really, really good. It actually kind of almost tastes like an apple pie. I don't know if I wrote that in there. I don't think I did with the cinnamon. You can do that. And cinnamon is also an insulin mimicker, so it's really good thing to have from that as well.
The cream of tartar is just like a teaspoon or maybe
Yeah.
a tablespoon?
Yeah, I
It
kind
doesn't
of.
dissolve
I-
well, I found in
Yeah.
trying it.
Yeah.
So
Well, that's why I do it in this,
Just
right?
constantly
Keep
swish.
shaking
I do it in a shaker cup, and I put it all in there, and then obviously the salt is gonna fall to the bottom. So sip some every once in a while, a little bit, you
How
know.
often do you do that?
I do one. You can do apple cider vinegar a couple, 3 times a day if you want to. You're like, I don't want to do it once, but.
I do it, I just.
Oh, do
yeah, I
you?
can't- Yeah,
Do you do it with water?
yeah.
Okay.
Can you,
I wouldn't do it straight.
when
No.
you're,
One, it might make you throw up, but 2, you really need that water to help it. I used to do it straight.
when you're breaking your fast or during your fast, can you do lemon?
Yes,
Is that-
thank you. And lemon is great to add. You want to add that with your apple cider vinegar as well too. So acetic acid, and it's excellent.
Okay, cool.
Yes, yes,
Is
thank you.
lime okay?
I'd have to look. I don't know the answer to
I
that.
asked because I was a brat with that.
Yeah,
I didn't put as much apple cider vinegar
Yeah.
as you said.
yeah.
I used a whole lime in mine, and a little bit of stevia. And we were talking at dinner, and I was telling you how I did it because I made it like a margarita. You were like,
I remember.
but not for this. And I was like, oh damn, because I was gonna tell everybody about it, So
If I was supposed to research that, I apologize. I don't know about the lime. What it is in the lemon is what it is in the lemon is it's the acetic acid that is in the lemon that is really beneficial and helpful. I've never seen something touting lime at the same time, so I'm guessing that we can all Google it.
but is the source correct?
That's
Does it
you
have-
know what I was gonna say next, right?
Does it have to be an actual lemon, or could it be like an essential oil lemon?
I would my initial reaction would be I'd be afraid of the essential oil one because they probably are gonna add something to it.
Wow,
Uh-huh.
I know. Depends on which oil company you do, I'm not gonna get all into
Yeah,
that.
yeah.
But I
Yeah,
do the, it's pure, so,
Okay.
and I actually put oils in my water all the time,
Okay.
so.
Well, let's just feel free to send me a pic of it, of the ingredients of exactly what it is. I'm just in a habit of using a lemon, and I just have a lemon pressed.
Yeah,
Cut it in half. I do a half a lemon with each one. It is about convenience, right? It is about finding what works for you. When I tell you what I do, it's only to share, or what the gals have done with Success, or Bill, or anybody. It's only so that you kind of have a reference point as to, oh, that's a way. But what I hope for each of you, which I'm thrilled that these 3 ladies and several others in the group are doing, is that this becomes something that becomes sustainable for you for life, and you're like, oh, and even if you fall off the wagon for whatever, you now have a system that you can fall back into and go do. That's it, right? So if that's something, let's just make sure that it's, what I would say is you could probably do it for sure in your eating window, but let's check it during your fasting window.
okay,
Because if it triggers insulin, it's mitigating the
Yeah.
whole, benefit of what we're trying to get at.
okay.
Okay. So that's the one variable, right? Is that part? Let's get into meals real quick, and then and then we're done. So I wrote you food sources here, right? So you've got each time we're going to eat. You're going to eat a combination of protein, carbohydrate, and fat. Those are called macronutrients, right? If you're unfamiliar with that term, macros. anything you eat can be broken down or is broken down into macros, right? If you eat McDonald's, if you eat Dunkin' Donuts, you eat anything on the planet, it fits into a macronutrient source, right? There are only 4 sources of caloric value that exist. Protein, which there's 4 calories in a gram of protein. Carbohydrates, also 4 calories. There's fat, which has 9 calories per gram. And then there's a 4th, which is not really a nutrient. It's not a macronutrient, but it is a caloric value, and that's alcohol. And alcohol has 7 calories. And yeah, I don't think it's on our list, actually. But, alcohol's not going to help you in this. Sometimes I know that it's real world. Let's use alcohol for 1 second. If you have to drink, right? I think Shelly had asked me at one point, like, all right, if I'm in a social situation, I have to drink. What's the best thing I should drink? What is it? I would say vodka with club soda and throw a little lemon or lime for Terry. 2 limes and some Himalayan sea salt. That really, because that's going to give you the least amount of effect around it, negative effect. So if you choose to drink, that would probably be the path of least resistance through this process.
And that would be your last meal of the day. So it would screw up your fast. So
That's
you
an
gotta be
excellent
careful.
point.
Yeah.
It's an excellent point. Yeah. So it's like, well, I had dinner at 8, and then I went out for drinks, and I had my last drink at midnight. Start your clock at midnight.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's right. I'm glad. Thank you for bringing that up. Excellent point. So food sources. So protein. Let's start with protein, right? So omega-3 eggs are fantastic, right? Like if you buy eggs these days, a lot of them have a little additional omega-3s in that. Chicken. Happy to connect you guys with Meat House on that. I'll tell you how to do it, but you just call them now and you give them my name and tell them exactly what you want, and then 24 hours later, it's ready for you. Turkey is acceptable. Like non-processed, don't go get like deli meat turkey that's like processed or something like that. Again, the processing is gonna
My deli meat has weed in it.
weed.
Wheat.
Oh,
Wheat.
I was like, weed?
No.
Where you got your deli meat?
You
do we
heard
get a
what
discount?
you heard what you wanted to hear, brother. Yeah. No judgment. No judgment. I said wheat.
That's not on the list.
I just want to know where you bought that. Yeah, exactly. So, non-fat Greek yogurt, right? Big one on that. Look for in those. I'll tell you one of the brands, and I'm not saying that I'm not 100% in love with it, but it's one that I've used for a long time. Is that Fage, F-A-G-E? Because it's a 0, right? Which is good in that standpoint. You have to really look at these labels. And one of the things I try to avoid is carrageenan in that when you look at it. But that aside, that Fage is a pretty good one in that. And so that just as an aside, works great to our fast, right? Breaking that fast. And if you use it, it has protein. You would count the protein in that. Like 1 serving, it's 227 grams, and it's 23 grams of protein. I think there's 9 grams of carbohydrates in the Fage one. And so you would count those 2, and it's 0 fat, so then you would have to introduce a fat source to that. We'll go down that path in 1 second as we combine these. But so that's a good one. Fat-free cottage cheese is a good one too. That works. Grass-fed beef, certainly, and small wild-caught fish. Wild-caught, you don't want farm-raised stuff. Everybody knows all this kind of stuff. So those are your food sources, protein sources. Carbohydrates, we're coming from organic fruits and organic vegetables, green leafy vegetables, right? Here's something so why, carbohydrates, I thought they were bad, fruit especially, wow, how do you eat fruit? That's all sugar. The thing about fruits and vegetables is that they do have sugars in them. They break down into sugars, but they're very high in fiber, and so fiber blunts insulin. That insulin response that's coming in, so that helps mitigate that. So that's why those work really, really well. The other thing you'll find is, especially if you go to green leafy, green vegetables, broccoli and things like that, you cannot get your amount of carbohydrates from just eating that. Yeah, I challenge any of you. You can eat love as much as you want. A plate of broccoli this big probably wouldn't even get you to what your carbohydrate number is. So again, the beauty is it's really filling. I don't want you to be. Yes, you're going to deal with a hunger process as we get through your 16 hours. You're going to learn around those kinds of things. But when you eat, you're going to be full, which is great. You look forward to that food and it tastes great. So yeah, fruits and that. And then fat sources, really, really, really important. I think fat is really it's the unsung hero here. And if you weren't familiar, I shared with you that and you can see how fat became the enemy in that fat-free craze, that everything went through. It's more than twice as calorically dense as your other two sources, right? 9 calories versus 4. But it is, good fats are metabolized by the liver, which is very different how that happens. So olive, coconut, walnut oils, fantastic. Stick on coconut oil for 1 second. So this is like the most bananas recipe, right? Get that chicken, or make your own, do anything, like we do. You take your chicken, you have your portion of that, and then you weigh out your coconut oil and pour it onto it, with it. And then I love to use hot sauce with it too, because hot sauce doesn't have the sugars in it. You have to be careful, right? Like barbecue sauce, full of sugar. Hot sauce, like Crystal, no sugar, works great. It is so flavorful. It really, really is. Yeah, right? I literally have probably eaten that 2,000-3,000 times. That's not an exaggeration. And I still, every single time, go, man, this is good. That may say more about me than that, but it's really good. Grass-fed cattle butter is a good fat source. Again, so if you like to cook, right, these are great things that make food taste fantastic. It's part of what makes these meals. I want you to love your food when you get it, and using fat helps a lot with that. Almonds are a good source. We're not going to snack on them, right? It's not like, oh, I'm hungry, so I'm going to have a handful of almonds. But you would use that to figure out, almonds and walnuts are great ones to kind of work in. I will give you another recipe here in 1 second using walnuts that I love. And then obviously avocado, right? Avocado works really well. But if you use avocado, you got to count the carbohydrates in that as well, too.
But not like with almonds?
Yeah, I don't really worry about it for whatever reason. It just, because your fiber is so high in that.
Okay.
Now, are the nuts raw nuts, not
Yeah.
roasted and salted and
Yeah.
all the good stuff?
If you could find unroasted salted,
Oh, okay.
you'd be all right with that.
Add Himalayan salt?
Yeah, or add it, yeah. That's actually a kind of a cool treat if you want to kind of, again, it has to be worked into with a full meal, but take like almonds, put a little coconut oil on them, and a little like Himalayan sea salt, or even like stevia.
Yeah.
They taste like candy, right? There's so many things you can do to make this stuff taste great. Now that would be your fat source, right? So if you had, say you had Greek yogurt, right, with some fruit in it, and that was your protein and carbohydrates, and then you wanted to make that, right? You take those almonds and you make that into something, and you have the right amount, then it's almost like you could have that as a dessert, right? Or you could incorporate it in. I'll tell you a way that I love to do with the fat-free Greek yogurt is fat-free Greek yogurt, then add in some fruit, right, to hit your macros. I throw in blueberries into that one, works great. I throw in 2 packets of stevia. And then for me, it's 32 for my fat. It's 32 grams of walnuts, and just mix that together. It's ridiculous. Do the same thing in cottage cheese. So I like to try to tend to put all my macros together, right, into kind of one thing. Like talking about the chicken with the fat on it. Then I'll do like fruit or vegetable on the side to hit that carbohydrate side to it. But you can mix them up around if you have those kinds of things or cravings around it like that. Those are some really good, easy kind of recipe ones around it.
The coconut oil, is that the MCT or no?
So, kind of. Yes, MCT, so coconut oil consists of MCT, but it's not 100% MCT. Okay, so about I think it's 70% of coconut oil fat comes from MCT. MCT stands for medium chain triglyceride, and so what is unique about that, and it's what makes coconut oil good. Okay, you good? Oh, let me give you your macros. On this for your grams of protein, carbohydrates, and fat.
Yeah.
This starts you at 40 grams of protein.
Okay.
You guys are gonna be the same too. We're gonna start at that. Let's start at 30 grams of carbs and 17 grams of fat per meal. And then you'll track, and then just go to this last section here.
Yeah.
And then what you'll do is so weekly weight, right? Those will all be easy. And then what I want is your average number of meals that you're eating at that week. Okay? Excited that? Okay. You've got my email and everything in the group. And we're almost done, you guys, on the rest on this. But in fact, we'll just roll into supplementation real quick. I highly recommend these to add into your supplementation. DHEA is really, really fantastic for both men and women, right? It's kind of mirrors like testosterone, but without going down the whole process. Adrenal fatigue, we've all heard that term before, adrenal fatigue, due to stress that everybody's under. That affects, what it does is it kills your any DHEA. I've got some studies in women on incredibly, it works, I use it as well, but it works really, really well in women in terms of with adrenal fatigue to help reset those, because your stress hormones are what are being hit through that, and then DHEA plays this. I've got a whole chain on how that I can show you if anybody's interested about how it extracts into all these other elements that really, really are critical to metabolic function and that. And
Are all these during the eating window?
yeah, I tell you in that I mentioned in there when you should do it, and I think they